Hey guys, it's Molly. Today I'm going to show you how to make old-fashioned apple pie filling that goes inside a vintage pie crust. Let's get started. We're going to add the flour and the salt. Next we're going to cut in the shortening, and the shortening is really cold. Okay, and I've got some ice water, and I'm just going to add enough water so the dough sticks together. And I'm just going to add it a little bit at a time. And I'm just going to get in with my hands and get a better idea of how much more water I need. A little bit more. And I have a 9-inch pie pan, and I'm just going to put my bottom crust in my pie pan. I'm just going to tuck the edges under. So I'm going to set this in the fridge to keep it cold. Okay, so I'm using a 9-inch pie pan, but it's pretty shallow. So I'm going to use, I think, about 3 to 4 large Granny Smith apples, and I'm just going to peel and quarter these. For the filling, I'm going to mix the sugar and the water. All right, so my syrup is boiling and I'm putting the apples in it, and we're just going to cook these uncovered until the apples are cooked through, but not until they're falling apart. I think 3 apples is going to be enough for me. And I'm just going to spoon some of the syrup over the top. So the apples are cooked through, so I'm going to carefully remove them out of the syrup and put them in the pie crust. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon of butter to the leftover syrup in the pan, and I'm going to add some vanilla. And I have a little bit of cornstarch mixed with water in this cup, and I'm just going to drop that in to thicken it a little bit. Okay, I'm taking the thickened syrup and I'm just scraping it on top of the apples and just smooth that over. So I'm just cutting out lattice strips for the top crust, and it says to make them about 1/2 inch wide, and I'm just gonna eyeball this. They're definitely a little wider than 1/2 inch, but I think that's okay. I'm going to start putting on my lattice crust. I have some heavy cream, and I'm just going to brush the top crust with it. Okay, so this pie bakes for 10 minutes at 450 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we reduce the oven temperature to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and cook it until the pastry's done. So maybe 20 minutes. So let's get this in the oven.
Hey Molly, what kind of pie have you made today?
I made the apple pie supreme. This recipe is from Sunset's Hostess Handbook. This was copyrighted around 1936. This pie is a little bit unusual. Normally I would just slice apples, mix it with the filling, and then put it in the pie shell. This one actually had you make a simple syrup, and then you cut the apples in like halves or quarters, cook it in the simple syrup, then you scoop the apple out, put it in the pie shell, and then you add some other things to the syrup, and then you pour it on top. Yeah.
Well, that's definitely different. I'm excited though. 90% of these pies that we've made out of these vintage cookbooks, they've all turned out pretty amazing. So I have really high hopes.
Well, let's hope it delivers. This recipe was submitted to this book by Mrs. V.E.D. from Deming, Washington.
Oh.
Yeah, so Deming, I'm not sure where Deming is, but Washington State, so
a fellow Washingtonian.
Fellow Washingtonian back in 1936 submitted this recipe, and she says, what a pie this turns out to be.
Well, let's find out. I mean, we are in the apple state, so.
We are in the apple state, and it's fall, so it
smells delicious.
Apple season, and it looks really good. The initial appearance of the pie, so I cooked it for probably about 25 minutes at 350 degrees, and then I turned the broiler on because I really wanted to get the top golden, and I got it a little too golden on some points, but I think it turned out to be a beautiful pie. It
looks really good.
It hasn't been in the fridge. It's still a little warm. Too bad we don't have vanilla ice cream.
Let's try to cut into this.
Wow. Holy cow.
It's like eating applesauce.
Mm-hmm. That's good pie.
It reminds me a lot of eating applesauce, but with a crust.
So the pie's delicious. I used Granny Smith apples because those are readily available pretty much everywhere. I think used them before in pies and they've always turned out well. And I think they were a really good choice because the sharpness of the Granny Smith comes through, but there was a lot of sugar. It was a cup of sugar in this recipe.
Wow.
And that's way more than I usually put in
That's
fruit
a lot
pies.
of sugar.
But it's definitely tart sweet. So I'm glad I chose a Granny Smith to stand up to that much sugar. The pie, even still being warm, held its shape beautifully. The recipe said to add either vanilla or it gave a variety of fruit juices you could add to the syrup when you were thickening it up. And I just chose vanilla, and you can taste the vanilla. The pie, like the appearance, classic apple pie. I probably could have shoved 1 or 2 more apples. I used 3. I probably could have put a couple more in there because they baked down a lot more than I thought they would. The crust is cute, super cute, very classic apple pie with the lattice crust. This pie crust was also in the book. Let me see if I had it all marked. So the pie crust recipe is titled How to Make Really Good Pie Crust. And this was submitted by MS of Los Angeles and MHB of San Francisco, California. It's just made with shortening. And again, this one's a little different because I just used cold water to mix the pie crust together, but it said you could use lemon juice or orange juice instead of water, or if you're doing a meat pie, you could use bouillon. I thought that was pretty creative. I mean, so why not flavor the liquid that you're putting into your pie crust? The pie crust is fantastic. It's, I would say, flavorful, very flaky, really easy to put together, and I would think I would definitely make this pie again.
Yeah, obviously it was delicious. Didn't last very long.
No, it's gone. It's gone. That pie's not gonna make it very long.
Destroyed.
I kind of like it because I'm a little bit, some people would say lazy. I say I like to save time. And what I like about this is you don't have to sit there and slice the apple. That takes some time, and and then you have to make sure they're about the same thickness all the way through, so they cook all the way through. They actually cooked a lot faster in that syrup than I thought they would. I thought it was going to take a long time, and it didn't take very long.
It's absolutely delicious.
Yeah, I think I'm going to cut another piece. You could probably cut back on the amount of simple syrup you put in this.
Oh no, it's absolutely delicious. I wouldn't change anything.
I don't think I would because it's so good.
I think if you made this and then added some slices in it to give it that different layered texture, I think that would taste phenomenal.
I have 3 more apples. I could give it a go and see how it turns out. This pie was super easy, and of course you don't have to use the pie crust recipe that I did. You could use whatever pie crust recipe you want. You could use store-bought pie crust. You could put a top crust on it. You don't have to put a top crust on it. A lot of people make fun of vintage food, and they are like, oh, it's bland or it's freaking weird. And a lot of it is just simple, good food. That's what I'm realizing. A lot of it is simple, good food.
It's comfort food, like what you would get at your grandma's house.
Yeah, this is like a pie a grandma would make.
Yeah, I absolutely recommend making this pie.
Let me know down below in the comments if you make this pie or how you like your apple pie.
So if you guys want to see more of these vintage recipes, leave a comment below and like and subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate it. It really helps us out.
And I hope to see you in the next video.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.